Thank Thank you. Welcome, everyone. My name is Sabir Sultan, and I'm the director of the Penn World Voices Festival and Literary Programs at PEN America, an organization whose mission is to unite writers and their allies to celebrate the power of the written word and champion the freedom to write. This is our 20th Penn World Voices Festival, and since 2005, the festival has stayed true to its original mission to celebrate the power of storytelling and literature and translation, and to convene global voices across borders, language, and culture. Over the last years, PEN America has tracked an alarming rise in book bans across the United States, and our Freedom to Write Index has tracked the cases of nearly 400 writers who were detained or imprisoned around the world for their writing or exercising their freedom of expression. In this moment of censoriousness, the festival will honor the power of literature and celebrate the stories that illuminate and interrogate what divides us and helps us to imagine new futures. This year, we are proud to present over 35 events featuring more than 100 writers over 4 days of celebration, dialogue, and cultural exchange. For those of you who are new to PEN America, we are a member-driven organization. We have members in every U.S. state and chapter cities across the country, from Detroit to Tulsa, and from Birmingham to Miami. We welcome all of you to help bring our mission to life. Check out your program for more information on how to join PEN America as a member. And so I'd like to thank our members, our bookstore partner for this event, PT Knitwear, and the staff here at Judson Memorial Church. I also wanted to share special thanks to the Mayor's Office of Media and Entertainment, the Department of Cultural Affairs, the New York State Council on the Arts, the National Endowment for the Arts, and Amazon Literary Partnership for their invaluable support of our work. We are additionally grateful to Total Caption for helping us to increase accessibility for more readers and writers by providing live captioning for this event. For your safety, before we begin, please take note of all emergency exits. And with that, now I'm especially pleased to introduce today's event, Writing as Resistance, and welcome Tahir Hamut Izgil, Dunya Mikhail, and Mojgan Ghazirad for a conversation about how writing becomes a powerful tool of resistance during times of political upheaval, displacement, and erasure. In his memoir, Waiting to be Arrested at Night, Tahir documents the Chinese government's persecution of the Uyghur people and his time in a labor camp. In Dunya Mikhail's poetry collection, Tablets, Secrets of Clay, she explores the memories of her family's exile from Iraq while looking back at Iraqi history. Mojgan's debut novel, The House on Sun Street, depicts her memories of growing up in Tehran during the Islamic Revolution in 1979 and the 8 years of war between Iran and Iraq. And so, thank you all for coming today, and thank you to our guests for agreeing to take part in this afternoon's discussion. And so, without further ado, please join me in welcoming the writers to the stage.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for coming here and spending your Saturday afternoon with us. My name is Mojgan Ghazirad, and I am an Iraqi American writer, and I'm here with Tahir Hamut and Dunya Mikhail to have this panel with you guys about writing as resistance. First of all, I would like to thank Tahir and Dunya for giving me the chance to read their beautiful books. And I'm going to go ahead and ask Dunya to read a few of her beautiful poems, and we will go ahead and ask Tahir to read. I think Tahir's daughter, Asina is going to read the English translation of his memoir for us, and after that we will start our conversation.
Good afternoon. I'm going to read some selections of my tablets, about a dozen of them, and a couple of them I read in Arabic as well for the flavor of the language, and the rest in English. But also there will be, I think, accompanying images on the screen. So, yes. مثل الغيوم نعبر الحدود بخفة، لا شيء يحملنا، لكننا في سيرنا نحمل ذاكرة مكان آخر ومطرا ولكنة. We cross borders lightly, like clouds. Nothing carries us, but as we move on, we carry rain and an accent and a memory of another place. Next slide, please. لا نزعل عندما تموت الأعشاب، نعرف أنها ستعود بعد فصل أو فصلين. لا يرجع الموتى إلينا، لكنهم يظهرون كل مرة في خضرة الأعشاب. We are not upset when the grass dies. We know it will come back in a season or two. The dead don't come back, but they appear each season in the greenness of the grass. Next. She recites a list of wishes to keep him from dying. Next. The truth lands like a kiss, sometimes like a mosquito, sometimes like a lantern. Next. The next is the numbers. Instead of telling me saying numbers, I'm just saying next, so that to help with the slides. All children are poets until they stop reaching for butterflies that are not there. Next. My flower will not wither. It's drawn in my notebook. Next. I am the plural who walks to you in the singular. Next. When I miss my friends, I find them in tree leaves. I see their hands waving from swaying branches. Next. In my old city, when someone dies, they bring a happy word with them to keep them company in the grave. War after war, the happy words were used up. I smuggled one out, imagination. Next. The emptied houses exchanged looks with the departed who kept looking back. Next. A bullet, then a siren, then ruins, then a bird song telling the truth. Next. Every drop of water is a different memory of a river crossed by those we know and we don't know. Some who have died, we hide behind our eyes. Some who are living, we hide to keep alive. Some who are friends, bring over the tigress in a cup of tea. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dunya, for beautiful. Okay. Yeah. So Tahir, do you want to read? Tahir is going to read like a few sentences in Uyghur for us, and then Asina is going to read from his memoir.
Rahmat Mojgan. Manglaның қадам ташрып қылғаныңларға рахмет айтыма. Ben bu kecha tutqun qilinishni kutish degan aslimamdan bir ikki jumla Uyg'urcha o'qib berma. Qolganini mening qizim Asina Izgil inglizcha o'qiydi.
Thank you, Mojgan. Thank you for everyone coming here today. I am the author of the memoir, Waiting to be Arrested at Night. I will read one or two sentences, and my daughter, Asina Izgil, will read the rest in English.
Avgustning o'ttirlirki bir kunlik kashda eng yaqin do'stlardan to'rtalan Almasning dukkaniga berib, beshimiz bir oqshom paranglashib o'tirdik. O kundagi parang temisi yanala nihoyat ko'ngilsiz bo'ldi.
This is a passage from chapter 17, There Are No Goodbyes. In those days of listless waiting, I began to take ever more frequent walks through the neighborhood to Almas's store after dinner. Since Almas had opened his convenience store a couple of years earlier, several close friends and I had regularly gathered there to chat and would purchase this and that to support Almas. His store's business had been consistently disappointing, though he was certain it would improve. When I went by the store, I would often find Almas seated at a table across from the entrance, translating Bertrand Russell's History of Western Philosophy from Chinese to Uyghur, his red security armband on his sleeve. Around that time, Almas got to know Mahmoud, a Uyghur officer in the local Public Security Bureau's National Security Detachment. One time, I saw Mahmoud sitting and chatting with several friends in Almas's store. Almas was pleased by his friendship with Mahmoud, even a bit proud of it. When I asked him what good could come of befriending a state security officer, he replied that it would come in handy. I will never forget the sly smile on his face when he said this. Almas had good reason for this belief. In recent years, more and more people had been making friends with party officials or police officers for personal gain or as a kind of insurance policy. One evening in mid-August, Almas and I met up at his store with three of our other closest friends. The five of us spent the night talking. Our conversation was deeply distressing. All of us were shaken by the mass arrest that has continued since March. In particular, there were whispers of Uyghur intellectuals being arrested, one after another. At that point, it was impossible, though, to know what was true and what wasn't. When we heard someone had been arrested, we would invariably ask what the reason had been. Each time we asked a question, though, we realized immediately how absurd it was. We know perfectly well that the vast majority of the arrests were based on fabricated crimes. We all live in fear, aware that we could be arrested at any time, on any pretext. With everyone smoking consistently, the air in the one-room store grew hazy. And every little while, we would open a door to air out the place. Afraid that passers-by would overhear our conversation, we always quickly pulled the door shut again. If a customer walked into the store, we would halt our conversation until they left. We talked for about 3 hours. I wish the Chinese would just conquer the world, one of my friends said suddenly. Why do you say that? Asked one of our companions. The world doesn't care what happens to us, my friend replied. The world doesn't understand China. Since we can't have freedom anyway, let the whole world taste subjugation. Then we would all be the same. We wouldn't be alone in our suffering. It's looking like you'll get your wish, said a third friend. As always, our conversation that night reached no conclusions, and we reluctantly prepared to head home simply because it had gone late. We didn't gather to solve the problems confronting us, but to exchange ideas and share our burdens. There's a Uyghur custom that when a parent dies, people pay visits to the buried. Each visitor will ask the host how their father or mother died. The host will patiently relate the very same account to each guest. The more this is repeated, the more the host's grief will subside. Our conversations in Almas's store were like that. Lately, it was as if we were addicted to sharing our troubles. When we all left Almas's store that night and said our goodbyes, I pulled my friend Farhat Tursun aside. At a quiet corner of the building, I told him that Kamil had been arrested, although I had promised Munira that I would speak of this to no one. Farhat was a close friend of Kamil's and mine, and I felt that he should know. Farhat registered no forceful reaction. Seeming at a loss for words, he only wrinkled his face in sadness. "My God, what is it that you're saying?" he intoned softly. The news had been a further blow to a man already in pain. We both fell silent. "Did you drive here?" I asked, changing the subject. "No," he replied, looking to the dark side of the street. I figured he must have counted on our drinking tonight. Although no one was really in a drinking mood today, we had bought a couple of bottles of red wine from the store so as not to sit there empty-handed. "Come on then, let's flag down a taxi for you on the main street." I gestured for him to walk with me to the road. "That's okay. I will walk home through the back streets." "What for?" "It will take you an hour to get home on foot." Someone told me I should keep away from people right now so that no one informs on me. I'll take the back streets. These days, aside from going to work, I barely go outside. "Why would anyone inform on you?" I couldn't help asking it, but as soon as the words escaped my lips, I realized once more what a pointless question it was. We were living in a time where it was absurd to ask why. "All right then, take care." I held out my hand to him. Since we saw each other frequently, we didn't usually shake hands on parting. Farhat hesitated for a moment, then he half-heartedly extended his hand. It felt cold and lifeless to touch. This might be the last time we ever saw each other, and I wanted to hug my dear friend tight, but I could not. With his head cocked slightly to the side, as was his habit, he walked quietly to the direction of the back streets. I watched as his figure faded into the black.
Thank you so much. Okay, let's start with the origin of these stories that I encountered in both of your books. I remember a time when I was a small little girl in right about the time of the Iranian Revolution in 1979. I was a few years old, and we gathered in my grandfather's garden in Tehran, and they had this huge terrace that faced the garden, and they had wooden divans, and at night, like summertime, they had canopies on those, they erected canopies on those wooden divans, and then me and my sister impatiently waited for my grandfather to come and tell us the story of 1001 Night. And it was at that time that it's interesting that the first stories that I heard was about a woman, Shahzad, which I'm sure many of you might know, that struggled for every night to survive another day by telling a story to the Shah, Shahryar, who had vowed to kill all his wives the night after the wedding. So he sowed this seed of storytelling in me, with telling me the power of words and introducing that rich culture, like Iranian culture, to me. I'm pretty sure that for both of you, there are these childhood stories that have influenced your poetry. So I would like to ask Dunya and then Tahir, tell us about those stories that have shaped your poetry. Thank you.
Actually, this is funny because this is very similar to my childhood experience starting.
I figured that's why I picked out, and I said that most probably we share the same thing. Okay.
Yes, it was in Baghdad, also during my childhood, Under the Stars. on the roof of our home. My grandmother would tell me stories passed from generation to generation, and we didn't have any book in our home. So one day, but I had a notebook, so I wrote those stories in the morning when I came downstairs. We come from the sun, not from alarm. A strong sun that wakes us up, and then we go downstairs in the morning. So I went to my notebook and rewrote those and illustrated them. And that was my very first act of literature, of writing, and actually of translation, because my grandmother was telling me these stories in Aramaic, which is the language we speak at home, and I would write them in Arabic because that was my schooling language. And actually, what I read, these selections from Tablets, my recent book, is a continuation of that early practice. It's a blend of writing, images, and translation.
So basically, you were doing the act of translation when you were very young. Is that right?
Yes, without knowing.
Without knowing what you're doing.
Without an intention, like I didn't know what the word translation was, but yes. And
did you have some graphics too? Did you have some graphics while you were writing down?
Yes, so I did do, because there was no book to watch, to see pictures or to hold it in my hand. So that's what I did, as if I was creating that book. And actually not having a book put me in trouble one day when I was in middle school. The teacher, I think it was a history teacher, she asked me, what do you want to become when you grow up? You know, they always ask this question. So I said, I don't know why I said that, but that was strange. I said prophet. And she was not happy about that. And during the parent-teacher conference, she complained to my mother. She said, you should know that there is no prophet after Prophet Muhammad. So why your daughter says prophet? And so my mom, she's a simple woman, and she was saying, you didn't find any other profession than that to tell your teacher? And I said, why? When she told me the reason, I said, well, but he said, in Arabic has gender in the word. So I said, he said no prophet. He didn't say the female prophet, which is Nabiya, like there's another word for it. So, but I don't think I wanted to, that was not my intention. I was not even religious. But I think I wanted to be a writer, and I thought only prophets write influential books, because only the Bible we had in our house.
Okay, so I just wanted to say for the audience, so you do not practice Islam, correct? Is that right, in your family, that but your school was like they were practicing Islam, is that right? Are you going to Muslim school, is that right?
Muslim school? No, I mean, I am a minority. I'm a Christian minority in Iraq. Is a Muslim country, and my family, my parents were Catholic, and my mother was very religious.
My question is was that a Catholic school you were going to, or was the public school that everybody?
No, it was a public school. Was actually they were teaching Islam as a subject, and when they were teaching Islam, it was called Deen, religion. The subject called religion. Although Iraq is diversity, it has all kind of religions, but they were teaching Islam, and we Christian, very few Christian students, we had the choice to stay or leave the classroom, and they were all leaving because that's a break. But I don't know, maybe I was a nerd. I was staying. Okay. I was staying and listening to the Quran. I liked the recitation and the musicality of it. I was like
so can I ask you this question? What prophet, female prophet, were you thinking of in your mind?
Oh no, no. The word Nabi in Arabic means specifically male prophet, and so Muhammad said no Nabi after me. So I was trying to defend that. I didn't mean to be. So I said he didn't say no Nabiya after me. Female is another word, like female prophet after me.
Interesting. Tahir, go ahead, please.
Нұрғын yazgıçılarga okşaş, meningki edebiyatga bolgan kızıkışımı hikaye anlaş ve hikaye tokuş bilen başlangan.
Like a lot of writers, my passion to writing also began with storytelling and story making.
Albatta, nurgun Arabça baytılğagan 1001 keçige ait, anadikin Parisça parat şiirinlağa ait, nurgun hikayeler Uygurladımı nayt keng tarqalgan.
A lot of stories like the 1000 Night you mentioned and then the Parhat Shirin in Persian is also very popular among Uyghurs.
Bu hikayelerinki elbette emmisi naytı güzel. Bula muhabbet hikayeleri, kişiler otursak dostluk, mihri muhabbet, tinçlik, bayan kılınan hikayeler.
Of course, all of these stories are extremely beautiful. There are topics like love, peace, and friendship in them.
Bu hikayeler ben küçük vaktim tatıpla, benimki ata-analarımdan, çoğunlardan bizmo uzun kış geçildiği aşina hikayelerini anlaydık.
When I was a child, in those long winter nights, I will listen to those stories from my parents.
Keyinki mezgil kelgen çağda ben şiir yazdım. Benim şiirlerimnin hikayecallık güçlük. Yani şiirlerimde ma'lum bir hikaye karakteri biraz güçlük.
Later, I became a poet, and in my poems, there is also storytelling embedded.
Ondan keyin kino rejissörlük bilen şugullandım. Yani hikayeni qanday sözleş benim kasbimga aylandı.
Then I became a film producer, film director, and telling a story became a part of my job.
Thank you so much. Yeah. So this question, the next question I have is for Tahir. You know, as I was reading your very powerful memoir that you have written, Waiting to be Arrested at Night, so it came to me that the power of your book comes from this detailed documentation that you have done about what is happening to the Uyghur minority in China and how the Chinese government is surveilling and trying to, basically what you're saying, like to erase the culture and then somehow colonize that area with what other ethnicities, as you mentioned, like Han ethnicities, other people coming there. So, I mean, to me, this looked like you were telling, I mean, my question is that you were a poet, okay? And then you come and write this memoir, which is powerful in documenting an intellectual's life for us who don't know much about. I mean, personally, I don't know much about like China to begin with, how people are living there and how's the fabric of society. And now you talk about this Uyghur minority, which basically don't know much. So it's very informative, eye-opening for me to know what's going on over there. How did you end up like wanting to write this memoir? You are a poet. Was that because you think that you want to do a political like intervention, or you wanted to do something like a cultural preservation for like your Uyghur community?
Ben bir şair. Aslında nayt güzel şiirlerini yazıp, nayt yaxşı şiirlerini yazıp, bir ömür aşındağı bir davamlaştığım batı özümle icad ettimni.
I am a poet, and at the beginning, I wanted to write beautiful poems only throughout my life.
Lekin endi Şarkı Türkistan'da, yani sizler biladigan Uyghur Abdunum rayonu, Uyghur rayonida Xitoy hükümetininki zulmü uzundan buyon izchil davomlashib keldi.
But in the East Turkestan, and as you know, it's the Uyghur Autonomous Region, in the Uyghur region, the long-term oppression of the Chinese government continued.
Endi bu yerda men o'zim bir shoir, bir Uyg'ur ziyolisi bo'lish sifatim bilan men tug'ilgandan tortib toki 2017-yili Amerikaga yenib kelgich bo'lganlikda Uyg'ur ziyolilarining, Uyg'ur san'atkorlarining Xitoy hukumatı tarafından qandaq şekilde zulümge uçurganligini öz beşimden ötkizip geldim.
As a poet and an intellectual, starting from I was born to 2017 when I escaped the United States, I witnessed how the Chinese government treated and how they oppressed the Uyghur artists and intellectuals.
Çünkü ziyalilar, yani Uygurlarning bu sarxil san'atkorlari Uygurlarning madaniyatini saqlash va ularningki kimligini saqlashda nihoyatda muhim rol o'ynab kelgan.
Because the intellectuals, the artists, they play a prominent role in preserving the Uyghur culture and identity.
Aslida 2017-yili Xitoy hukumati Uyg'urlarga qaratgan zo'r tutqundan burun, garchi zulm bo'lsa-mu, yanada men va mening oilam biz o'zimizning vatanimizda davomli yashashni orzu qilardik.
Initially, before the 2017 mass arrest began, although there was systematic oppressions, me and my family, we wanted to continue our life in our homeland.
Keyin amal bo'lmadi, ya'ni men burun bir siyosiy mahbus bo'lgan tarixim bo'lg'achqa bu xatar yetib keldi, ham meningki nurg'un yaqin do'stlarim oqaqin tutilib ketdi.
But then we had no other solution. I was a political prisoner before, and a lot of my friends were detained.
Shuning bilan biz amalsiz Amerikaga yenib kelishga majbur bo'ldik. Yenib kelgandan keyin men o'zimningki hisobda biz mundaqcha aytganda qochib chiqdik.
So we had to come to US, and technically we are escapers, we are refugees.
Bu qochish jarayonini Amerikaga kelgandan keyin bir yezish niyatiga keldim. Ham shu boshdan o'tgan kechirmishlarni mush kecha tutqun qilishni kutish degan bir aslam orqali yezib chiqdim.
And after coming to US, I decided to document the duration and the process of this escape. And I wrote this book, Waiting to be Arrested at Night.
Yes, thank you. I mean, I encourage all audience here to get Tahir's book because, as I said, it's an eye-opening book. And actually, my son, who's a high schooler and actually has AP US history, and he was telling me the other day that he was kind of like comparing the China, Russia, and American government, US government to each other. I was encouraging him also to read Tahir's book because of the way that he has explains the surveillance system over there, which for us, for me that I've been living here for like more than 2 decades, it's just unbelievable how they were like getting the people's identities, fingerprinting, blood samples, audio message, getting the audio capture of the people, how they speak, and the facial recognition. There's a passage in your book, and you explain how Marhaba, your wife, is going there, and they were trying 6 times to get her a facial recognition, and every time it fails, and they don't know what to do. It's just unbelievable for us what they do back there, and even like going to one place to another place, how they register. Even if they receive a call from United States, somewhere from abroad, the police will come by and say, "Okay, who called you? What do they want?" And like a questioning, which is for us, I felt sometimes like the pressure is unbelievable. So I was going to say that, we all like, as much as I feel like lucky to be here, to be somehow in a country that we have this freedom, but we also feel the vulnerability and the risk of like the society, the free society that we are living, that can go downhill and things can change. So my question for Tahir is that, would you think that you would have had a way to resist this surveillance? Would you have been able to do that, or would it have been possible to do this?
Xitoy hukumatiningki Uyg'urlar qaratgan bu qatimqi cho'ng tutqunida, ya'ni 2017-yildagi tutqunda bu yuqori texnikalik nazorat sistemasi nihoyatda muhim rol o'ynadi.
In the mass harassment Chinese government targeted to Uyghur population, the high-tech surveillance system played a huge role.
Agar yuqori texnikalik nazorat sistemasi yoki ashunda bir texnikalik imkoniyat bo'lmagan bo'lsa, Xitoy hukumatiningki Uyg'urlarni shunda qisqa muddat ichida necha million odamni jazo lagerlariga qamishi, ularni necha yil tutib turishi, toki hozirgacha davomlashtirishi qiyin bo'ladi.
If there's no such a high-tech capability available, it would be impossible or difficult for the Chinese government to detain that many Uyghurs and keep them even until now.
Xitoy hukumati hatto keyingi mezgilda bu yuqori texnikani shu darajada foydalandiki, ular Uyg'urlarning yuzini toniy oladigan texnikani kashf qilib yo'l qo'ydi.
The using of the high-tech surveillance system was to an extent that the Chinese government later invented a system that can only recognize the Uyghur faces and distinct them from other races.
Endi hozir Sharqiy Turkistonda, ya'ni Uyg'ur elida yashayotgan Uyg'urlarningki bunda bir yuqori texnikaga va bunda bir zo'r davlat kuchiga qarshi turadigan imkoniyati yo'q.
And now the people living in East Turkestan or Uyghur region have no ability at all to resist such a high-tech surveillance system.
Men bir chet eldagi bir shoir, bir yozuvchi sifatida men o'zimni qilishdagi ishimni qila olaman. U texnikaga yoki u nazoratga qarshi turadigan eng yaxshi quralim meningki shu yerda yuz bergan ishlarni, rost ishlarni so'zlash.
As a poet and writer in exile, I believe that the best way I can resist such a systematic oppression is to document it and tell the truth to the world.
Wonderful, thank you. So, in your beautiful book, Dunya, somewhere in tablet 2, you write, which basically is the first poem that you read for us this afternoon. You said that, can your camera capture fear in the eyes of the mother sparrow, see the broken eggs in her eye? So you're just beautifully telling and writing the suffering of a nation in your poetry. So, and we all know that the power of language is not just what it says, it's how it is said. And when I read your book, I saw like, what a brilliant idea that you have had with these primitive tablets that you write the English, which I'm assuming you translated yourself to English. And then you have this poem in Arabic, and then you have these graphics, which you insist to say primitive because of their tablets. So how did you come with this brilliant idea? Tell us about the formation of this in your poetry. And actually, I know that we had some of your graphics here, but I encourage everybody to buy her book and see those beautiful poetry, beautiful graphics for yourself.
Yes, thank you for your feedback. These are, of course, inspired by the Sumerian clay tablets. As you know, they were the first communication in history. Not only that, they recorded stories, emotions, laws, gossip, every human condition by that time. And so I felt as if, but by bringing them to the contemporary life, as if I was trying to touch history, not in the sense that of like history as something distant, but something that is still speaking, that is present, not to complete it, but to allow its brokenness to speak to us. And when I say brokenness, you know what attracted me the most on those ancient clay tablets? The cracks in them. Most of them have had cracks, and these cracks do not erase the message, they enhance it. So a broken tablet may lose a line in the poem, but it's that the fracture adds a meaning. It adds to the poem. So I tried, even if you see it later, if you see the book, I mean, some of them I tried to imitate those cracks in the images. So I paired every poem, short poem, tablet, with a drawing, even though I don't know how to draw. But you know, recently, I received a message from my friend Laurie Cohen, who's in the audience. I thank her for that message. It was a quote from Jean Cocteau's, a French poet, who says, "Poets do not draw. They anti-handwriting, and they knot it up again in a different way." So I use handwriting. This really deeply resonated with tablets and so I was so grateful to read that, because I said, oh, this is exactly this, because, you know, I use my Arabic handwriting in the images as part of the design. And here, this quote, it gives me this impression that this handwriting is a living script. It makes, you know, so I was having this living script, knotting together languages, Arabic, English, histories, Sumerian and contemporary themes, exile and belonging, etc. So yeah, but I don't know, I can speak forever about that, but I feel that actually every poem is a tablet, not in form only, but as a function. Because if you think of it, it's something to be, you know, you can hold. It's something to be held, you know, be held and broken, buried, found again, carried as a secret. And if we have all these tablets, the telephone, the iPad, the computer, it started with a clay tablet, but it's a continuation of it.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much for what you explained here for us. So I'm not sure how much time we do have, but I want to go back to maybe a very critical question that I have for both of you here. You know that Salman Rushdie has indeed spoken about the role of writers in addressing injustices in this world, and I would like to quote him here. He says that a poet's work is to name the unnameable, to point at frauds, to take sides, start arguments, shape the world, and stop it going to sleep. Tahir, what I see that you have done in your book is that, in my opinion, you have named the unnameable. I mean, the title of your book is talking about China as genocide, the erasure of Uyghur population by dominant power and colonization by other peoples. What we are seeing right now happening in front of our eyes in Palestine, what Amnesty International calls it, Israel's live stream but unheeded genocide of Palestinians in Gaza. So we may not be able to stop these, but I think that as writers, we can bear witness and document what is happening to the population that is subject to erasure. So I would like to hear what's your take on this, and why, for example, you put Uyghurs, China's genocide on the title of your memoir.
Dünyanın hem yerinde zulüm bulup atıdı. Meyli Palestin'de bolsun, meyli Şarkı Türkistan'da bolsun, meyli Rohingya'da bolsun. İnsanlara zulüm davamlaşıp atıdı.
There are oppressions and sufferings all over the world right now. No matter it's for Palestinians, Rohingyas, or Uyghurs, we can see oppression almost everywhere.
Onun üstüge bundaq bir zulümның, yani diktator tüzümlerinki bütkül dünyaya boğan təhdidi, hatta G'arbga, Amerikaga boğan təhdidimi künsiri yıqılışıvatıdı.
Especially the threat of dictatorship and authoritarian regimes is increasing. Even for Western countries like United States, we are seeing a larger and larger threat from those regimes.
Zulüm, o başqa narsa emas. O meyli dünyanın nerede bolsun, meyli qandaq şəkildə bolsun, meyli kim qılğan bolsun, kimge qılınğan bolsun, onun mahiyyəti özgərməydi.
Oppression is oppression. No matter where it happens, committed by whom, who is suffering, oppression is always that fundamental thing.
Əmdi biz bir yazğıç sübtida bizning qilalaydiganimiz haqni so'zlash, rostni so'zlash. Chunki zulm qiluvchilar rostni so'zlagandan qo'rqadi.
As a writer, our obligation is to tell truth and say the truth to everyone, because the committers of oppression is most afraid of the truth.
Masalan, Xitoy hukumatı Uyg'urlarni sirtqa chiqib qo'yib pasportlarini yig'ib oldi. Ularninki necha million odamni kamplarga solidi, chet elga chiqib kirgan xotirasi bilan jazoladi. Mushning hammasi ularning haqdan qo'rqayotganlik, rost gapdan qo'rqayotganlikni ifodalaydi.
For example, the Chinese government confiscated passports of Uyghur people, and anyone who had been abroad had been punished and prohibited to exit the borders. This all are signs of the oppression, fearing us telling the truth.
Şuna ben bu əsləməmdə üzəmdən beşimdən ötən keçirmişlərini, ailəmninkilərin beşində ötən keçirmişlərini və bir qism dostlarımның beşdə ötən keçirmişlərini təfsilatları bilan yazdım. Həm yazıqçılığımı davamlaşdırıb atımə. Mənim qılalaydıqım şu.
That is why in my memoir I detailedly expressed the experiences of myself, my family, and my friends. And this is all I can do.
So I also wanted to read one of your another beautiful poem in one of your tablets. You say that the cage owner reminds the sparrow life outside is an inferno. One day the sparrow flies away, and there in the heights, overlooking the ruins of the world, the sparrow discovers the cage owner was right. It sings about ruins, a beautiful song without walls. So talking in these tablets, you're also documenting the war and destruction that has brought to your country by the dominant powers. So again, about documentation, what is your take? I think that this song is about the ruin, means the documentation of war and destruction. So tell us about it. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, this is the paradox of freedom, the complexity of freedom, you know. It's, on the one hand, I mean, it is risky, it is the cage. Yes, it is oppressive, but it's at least familiar. The sky doesn't offer shelter, but it offers like a dignity of voice, of flight. And here, but the sparrow sings despite the ruins. Actually, not despite the ruins. I would say because of the ruins. And that is the poet. The sparrow in this is the poet. I mean, for me, somebody who I opened my eyes to the war after war. I mean, you know, you are from Iran, and you were supposed to be my enemy. We went to war, and we were supposed to kill you, or get killed, etc. And anyways, so that was. So there was so much destruction, and after that, war after war. Not only that, it's continuous. I'm less interested in the machinery of war than in its residues, the aftermath, the afterlife of war, that altered landscape of heart and home, the sounds of childhood interrupted by the sirens, the mother's voice, everything. Here is the task. The sparrow has the same task of the poet, and I remember this, is actually inspired by a few lines by Brecht, the German poet Brecht, who says, I have to remember, in the dark times, will there also be singing? Yes, there will be singing about the dark times.
I think that what I want to finish up is this last. I think that's beautiful, powerful words that you say, that the singing is done by the sparrow even after the ruin, means that the word remains, and it's actually the witness of what has happened, which is what we as poets and writers do. Even though we cannot stop what's going on, the damage, destruction, the war, erasure, but we can write about it and then document it and witness for the future. Thank you both for having this wonderful conversation. Now I open it to the audience, if you guys want to come by. Please come if you have any questions for us. There are speakers both sides, so you can go ahead and start and ask. And please tell whose question is for Tahir or Dunya.
It's for both, actually, okay. And it's the poems, they have a sui generis power because they speak some truth. It doesn't matter if it's of the sparrow, if it's of the individual writing the point, or the individual on whose behalf the poet speaks. However, I think that both of you, in your poems, you're trying to go bigger. And my question is, how can you make your poems transcend or gain power to speak bigger and broader beyond that small individual micro story that they say, and the micro truth? How do you inspire bigger change with your point? And if you do inspire, you may not necessarily wish to go that way. But if you do, how would you do it? Thank you.
I thought Tahir is going to say.
Yeah, I mean, I am a poet of the small details, and I feel they are more effective than the big ones. I call them the small things with big shadows, this is that was like in Arabic poetry. This is really like a revolution, because usually it's like we not only myself, we were a group of poets. We called ourselves the poets of low tone, because everybody was reading, shouting, and they were like very formal. Anyways, I feel these details of life are more effective than like slogans, of course. It is, because if we think of it, the official, the authorities, whether it's local or foreign, they deal with the war in, like, they come to it with treaties and with historic, some historic facts, but poets rebuild it from memory, from these small details, from these, the details we're talking about, like in these, like how, let's say, the sparrow, the mother, how in her eyes, the broken eggs. These, I mean, how was it, that moment of destruction, the war. The poet's concern is the moment before it and the moment after, not the moment of the destruction. How was it before and how is it after? Because I think the effect of war, it lasts on the soul long after the gunfire stops. It is really, it has that shadow also, speaking of shadows. And you said truth, poetry is a smuggled truth. Every poem is a smuggled truth, actually. So I agree with that.
Sualыңызға рахмет. Şiir, asli men bugün şiir to'g'riliq jiqroq gap qilgan bo'lsam yaxshi bo'ladi, ammo bugun men o'zimniki aslamam to'g'riliq jiqroq gap qilishga to'g'ri keldi. Men siyosiyni qat'iy yaxshi ko'rmaydigan bir shoir.
Thank you for your question. Today I should have talked more about my poems, but I had to talk about my memoir more. And myself, I am a poet who doesn't like politics at all.
Lekin bir Uyg'ur sifatida, bir zulmga uchrayotgan bir millatninki shoir sifatida men o'zimninki mushu kimlikim tufaylidan siyosiydan qochib qutulmadim.
But because of a poet of a group of oppressed people, because of this identity, I can never escape politics.
Şoňa men gerçi özümninki naýty hususiy his-tuygularymy tasvirlasam-mo, bäzide meniň bu hususiy his-tuygularym bir xil kollektivga, texmi köp adamlarninki keçirmişlerige vekillik kıldı.
So even though I only document or describe my own individual feelings, a lot of the times these feelings represent or resonate with the broader collective memories.
Men hemde bara özümninki hususiy his-tuygularla bilen kollektiv takdirini özüra birleştirdigan bir xil şiir ýolga manganlygymny his kıldım.
Then I slowly realized that I am on a path of sort of combining individual feeling and collective destiny in my poems.
Belki hemde muşu meniň şiirimga texmi küç berişi we meniň şiirlerimniň ahmiýetini texmi ýokary götürdigan bir ýol boluşy mümkin.
And maybe this path will give more layers to my poems and make it more powerful and meaningful.
Rahmat.
Thank you.
Other question?
Thank you all so much for being here. I don't know if I'll be able to articulate this, but I'll try. For the last several days of our festival, I've heard poets and authors talking over and over again about how important it is for them to make a book or a poem beautiful, how that is the most important thing. And I think as someone who's not a literary writer, what is it within you that you feel you can tell that it has become beautiful? Like, what is the kind of, it's so subjective, right? What beauty is. So what is it you're striving for? How do you know if you've crossed that line?
Sorry, could you repeat the question again? Is it, what is the beautiful thing that they have?
Well, I was saying that I hear over and over again poets and writers talking about how the most important thing is to make a book or a poem beautiful. But what do you feel or what do you know within yourself that you've done it?
Thank you.
Güzellik täsirlenişden kelidi meningçe. Haklarını täsirlendiriş üçün şairning qalbi aldı bilen güzellik toluşu ve bir xil çıllıqqa toluş gerek.
I believe beauty in my poems comes from emotional touch. And if a poet wants to touch the audience emotionally, their heart has to be sincere and has this desire to beauty.
Her bir adamninki reallıqni bayqışı, özünün his-tuygunu ifadeleşi belki farklı boluşu mümkün. Ama şairlarning hammasi de bir ortaqlıq oldu. Yani neme dese, özünün hissiyatıga sadık bolgan çağda andan güzel şiirlarni yaza alaydı.
Maybe it's different for different individuals, how they observe reality and how they express their feelings. But there's one thing common among poets, that we are all try to be loyal to our emotions. Thank you.
Well, beauty is complicated, you know. It's not that simple. It is, it's hard to talk about it as a one-layer thing of beauty, but poetry, I would say, if instead of beautiful, effective, it can be, even though it cannot rebuild cities, it cannot bring the lost ones, but it may rebuild the soul's architecture, and that may matter on the long run. Yeah.
Thank you. Any other question? None? Okay. Well, if there's no question, I would. Okay, go ahead, please. Can you please come up here?
Thank you. The first question is to Dunya, that when you say...
Can you please speak a little bit louder? We have
okay, so first question is to Dunya. When she said that she wanted to be a prophet, what was the time period? Because as we know, I guess it would be Saddam's time. Baath Party was in power. We heard, I'm a Bengali, so we heard that Baath Party is leaning towards not too much into the Islam. So how come it happens that teacher was so taking it personally when you said I wanted to be prophet? So that was interesting. So you can mention the time period. Then I will have the understanding that how, in general, level politically was polluted. The second one is Mr. Tahir. So what is the main complaint against the Uyghur, right? Uyghur people, that is it Islam or the ethnicity, or both? If it is, then where do you stand by? Like, what do you want that they don't want it? So what sort of oppression you explain it in your words? Thank you.
Yeah, you're saying that you're referring to the Baath Party in that time. You maybe mean it was secular, so why they are upset? I mean, well, first of all, it was not really very secular, kind of. Yes, it was not, compared to, let's say, Iran was not that religious, Iraq as an authority, but on this level of the street, on people, yes, the people are very religious. Not all of them, but some religious are very religious. And that teacher, by chance, the teacher of history, was like, she felt offended because to her is like it says in the Islamic religion that Prophet Muhammad said, no prophet after me. So that's why. So it was a personal thing, man. She maybe not represent a lot of people, yeah, but yeah, a lot of people are very religious in Iraq, whether Muslim or Christians. I mean, my mother is very religious Christian, I mean. So that is not uncommon in Iraq.
Суалыңыз үшін рахмет. Найти мойын бір суал болды бұл. Шарқи Түркістан баймен деген ұйғырларныңки вәтіні Xitoy tarafından mustamlik qılınğan bir zemin.
Thank you so much for your question. It is such an important one. East Turkestan, the Uyghur homeland, as I said, is a land that was colonized and occupied by the Chinese government.
Gerçi Xitoy Kompartiyasi hakimiyet kelgandan keyin 1955-yili bu yerda Şinjan Uyghur Avtonom rayoni deydigan bir avtonomiyalik rayonni ta'sis qilgan bo'lsa-mu, ammo Xitoy hukumatı avtonomiyalik huquqni yerli xalqlarga bermagan.
Although after the Republic of China was built, and in 1955 they granted the land as the Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region, they never actually gave us that autonomy.
Bu Xitay hükümetinin yani Xitay Kompartiya hükümetinin Uyg'urlarga qaratgan irqiy qirg'inchilik zulmi izchil davomlashgan. Bo'libmi 90-yillardan keyin Xitoyda millatchilik kuchaygandan keyin bundaq zulm texim og'irlashgan.
So the oppression of the state and the Communist Party has never stopped since then, especially during the late 90s when the nationalism among Chinese people arose, the oppression began to be more severe.
Albatta, Uyg'ur xalqi o'z huquqini qo'g'dash uchun izchil turda bu mustamlikachilikka va zulmga qarshi kurash qilib kelgan.
And of course, the Uyghur people, to gain independence and protect their rights, have been consistently going against this sort of oppression.
Mush tufaylidan Uyg'urlar bilan Xitoy hukumatining o'rtasida uzun yillik ziddiyat mavjud.
So because of these rebellions, there is this tension between the Chinese and the Uyghur people for very many years.
2012-13 yillardan keyin hozirgi davlat raisi Xi Jinping taxtga chiqqandan keyin u bir balvoq bir yo'l qurilishini o'tirib qo'ydi va bu orqali dunyoga iqtisodiy kengayishdan iborat bir cho'ng planni tiklab chiqdi. Hamda bu plan Uyg'ur ilidan, Sharqiy Turkistondan o'tidi. Shunga Uyg'urlar davlatning bexatarligiga tahdid solgan bir darajaga ko'tarildi hozir.
After the current leader of China, Xi Jinping, came to stage in 2012, he sort of started the project called the One Belt, One Road initiative, which passes through the Uyghur homeland. So this Uyghur tension sort of became a national security issue for the government.
Şuna bu Uyg'urlarni ezishi bu yalğız din yoki boshqa sababdan emas. Buningdan aytdi jiq tarixiy va real sabablar bor.
So there are so many real elements and historical factors behind this systematic oppression of Uyghurs.
Thank you. I think we have time for one more question if anybody has one.
Hi, thanks so much, everyone. I have a question about the banning of language, how it has worked in the case of the Uyghur people and the effect that it has both practically on people's lives and then more personally, like within households and in terms of the knowledge that people have over time.
Tak 90-yıllarga kelguncha Uyg'urlar boshlang'ichdan tortib tak oliy maktabni bitkazguncha o'zining ona tilida tarbiya oladi.
Until the 90s, Uyghurs had the chance to receive education in Uyghur from the very young age to graduating college.
Ondan keyin Xitoy hukumati Uyg'ur tilininki Uyg'ur kimligini saqlashda aytim muhimligini biladi albatta. Shuningdek keyin dastlabda qo'sh til deydigan siyosatni qo'llandi va undan keyin hozirgi mezgilda Uyg'ur tilini butunlay ma'rif sistemasidan chiqarib o'tdi.
And of course, the government is aware of how important the language or Uyghur language plays a role in keeping the Uyghur identity and culture. So they implemented the two-language bilingual education, and by now they completely eliminated the Uyghur language from the education system.
Endi bu bir millatninki tilining yo'qolishi bu pek ajallik bir zarba bu millat uchun. Bir Uyg'ur tillik shoir bilan bilan men buni texim jonqur his qilaman.
And such prohibition of the language of a ethnicity is a very deadly attack to our culture. And as a Uyghur poet, I strongly feel that.
Bu albatta shu Xitoy hukumatining Uyg'urlarga qaratgan irqiy qirg'inchilikninki bir parchasi bu.
And of course, this is just a piece from the overall genocide Chinese government is committing.
Dunya, you want to answer the question? Oh. I thought I was first. Okay. Great. Thank you so much all for being here and joining our conversation.